Greetings, beautiful souls. Today is March 19, 2019. We're in the Spring Equinox, full moon in Libra, Mercury in retrograde energy. So much energies and everything that's going on. I'm on here today, and I wanted to make some announcements before I begin to deliver my messages. I will be conducting, just a reminder, I will be conducting the webinar tomorrow. Greetings. I'll be conducting the webinar tomorrow from 5 p.m. to, I think it's 7 p.m. Yes, the full moon spring equinox webinar. I would encourage anyone, especially who's on the twin soul path, for you to be a part of this, because this is where it's more in an intimate setting, where I'll be giving messages, we'll be interacting with each other, and also discussing what's happening in the current energies to do with those who are on the twin soul path, especially, even if you're on an ascension path. Either way, everyone is a part of this, okay? So if you're interested in being a part of this Zoom webinar, I will be leaving the link in the description box, or I'm going to leave it someplace where you'll be able to see it, or you could send me an email, thegardenofeden1111@gmail.com. Also, I will be at the Awaken Fair again for the third time. That's going to be on April 28th, 2019. This is where you can come not only for discounted readings, but there's also people who are going to be there as vendors. There's also Reiki. You'll also be able to purchase certain things and crystals, and this is different people that are going to be there. That's going to be in Tarrytown, New York, for anyone who's interested. That's going to be from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on April 28th. And I'm also pleased to announce that I will be, on June 2nd, I will be participating in another expo, which is going to be in Austin, New York. And that's where I'll also be giving discounted readings, and it's going to be outdoors. That's going to be from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m. on June 2nd. Also, I'm pleased to announce, sort of like a mini surprise, but I'm kind of putting it out there so you'll be aware of it. On April 4th, I will be doing another live with Mike the Peace Dealer. And it's going to be so exciting for the both of us. And I really feel that what it's going to do is going to bring on more activations, more things to come out there as we're stepping more and more into our true authentic selves. And to me, I look at it at no matter what's happening in our lives, it's truly an exciting time. It may not feel exciting at times, but it is an exciting time. Because think about what you've experienced for the past several years in the things that you've desired that has not been able to be stabilized. And we're just doing this together collectively to stabilize ourselves and to bring in these energies of just extreme power, great power. Greetings, everyone. I'm just making some announcements before I begin. There is so much messages for me to share. I don't even know where to begin. So bear with me, because it's like I feel like I'm doing some teaching, and I'm also speaking from my heart. And everything that I deliver in messages is based on current energies. Also, anyone that I've done readings for the week. Also, it involves my own personal journey. I encourage also for anyone who would like to be a part of the Patreon community, because I have been putting out several voice recordings that's going in the book, The Return of the Garden of Eden. And what it is that it's more detailed and it's more personable. And I look at it as a sacred journey. So you think of it being in a room with me talking about my journey, and where you probably would relate to a lot of things that you hear me talking about, because it's like I have to be my own personal healer for myself, and also talking about it like a diary, and also bringing it collectively to what's happening in everyone else's lives, regardless of what path they're on, and putting the pieces together. I know that there are other people out there that put out information and talk about what's happening, the energies. But what I do, the difference with me is that I put it into a place of putting the pieces together so it makes sense for you as we relate to it from the human perspective. But I also take it from the higher perspective, and I take it to the galactic perspective. I take it to the childlike perspective. I take it from the divine feminine perspective and the divine masculine perspective. I take it from all perspectives, so that way it makes sense for us, that we're not moving through these energies feeling lost or feeling as if we can't make sense out of all of this. So as we are transcending through this time. You know, it's a very, very significant time because tomorrow, the spring equinox represents the new spiritual year. So, you know, like how you have the December to December 31st or January 1st is the new year on the, you know, the Roman calendar. But this is the spiritual birth. And I look at the spiritual birth is just extremely important because it's about how you are becoming new to yourselves and what we've had to release, what we've had to let go of, what we're pushing forward to, and being able to understand what it means for you as we're navigating through all of this time and how the universe, the cosmos, is supporting us with this. Okay. So anyway, give me one moment because I want to turn off the sound in the background because I don't want anybody interrupting me. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so I'm going to read off some things because I've been taking notes all week to talk about this. And I just want to send greetings to everyone. Greetings, Kelly. Greetings, Carrie. Amber, I'm assuming. And no, you're not lost. We're not lost. Okay, it's just a matter of understanding the path and having it make sense for us, you know. The more we seek knowledge, the more we seek this knowledge and have the wisdom and have the ability to connecting within the inner, you'll never be lost. You'll never be lost. And when you allow yourself to know that everything is being shown to you, everything is in its place of being revealed to you, you do not have to feel lost. And it's about just connecting yourself to the messages and being in an awareness of it so you don't feel lost. Okay. And that you're not taking things from the surface any longer, that now you're choosing, it's a choice to go deeper. And going deeper means that you're going to allow everything that flows to you, either through someone else or a message. It could be anything. And you'd be like, aha, you know, and then, then you're getting to the next stage of your purpose or your path. Okay. So this is a time, I forgot to mention that Uranus is in Taurus. Taurus is my rising north node, and of course Uranus is my ruling planet. So whatever messages you're going to hear from me is going to be in quantum leaps, quantum energy, just absolute power. It's like you come into contact with me, you will be ignited. And that's just the truth. I'm just keeping it real with you all. And just before I came on, I was looking at the clock. And I said, oh, I need to use the bathroom before I come on. And I said, I bet you I'm going to see 555. And sure enough, I see 555. And there's 5 people right now that I'm seeing that's on right now. And so that's change. Changes, and more changes. Movements and shifts that are happening to do with all of us, okay? Whether you're consciously aware of it or not. So you can choose to be more conscious or just stay as unconscious as you think you can be. But no matter what, the changes are happening within you, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. Planet Earth, Mother Gaia is not waiting, okay? So the background song is Natural Mystic in the Air. You know, it's like it's something you can't see, but you can feel it. And you can all feel these activations happening within you. For me, there's like for the past week, early in the week, maybe some of you have been experiencing this, where I was just sleeping and feeling tired and feeling like I can't move or I don't want to be bothered. And you know, that time when that happens is because I'm getting a lot of downloads coming in. I'm also receiving information. I'm also noticing some dreams that I have. Some of them I'm remembering. Sometimes I'm not. You know, it makes you think about that thing that sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. So, and that's what it is. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't, because, you know, and it's funny, even though Spirit is giving it to me as a joke with that, it had that commercial itself. You know, maybe some of you wasn't around during that time of that commercial because they don't longer play that commercial. And it has to do with the chocolate and the peanut coming together. And this is what the full moon in Libra is representing, is what's integrating between the light and the shadow. So I'm speaking from this without looking at any papers, but I'm just going with the flow of what messages that are being shown to me. And so this is the time of what's integrating between the light and the shadow. And I'm going to be breaking it down to you as much as I can remember, because I have been recording also more for the book. Some of the stuff I'm recording, like I said, I'm putting it on my Patreon account for those who are choosing to be a part of that community, where you'll be able to hear most of the stuff that I'm putting out there that's happening actively in my life in relation to my twin soul path and journey and what is occurring. So, and you might be able to relate to it, because each one of us, we hold different templates to our path. It's not every one of us is on the same exact path with it, but we're still reaching to that same destination. And what is that destination? This is the destination of truth, authenticity, true, pure love, sovereignty, freedom. Okay, freedom. So I'm going to go to what messages I'm to give in terms of the quantum leap and the quantum energy and what this means for us with Uranus being in Taurus during this time, and how ironic that is during this time, as there's great activations that are happening with a lot of twin pairs that are coming into divine union, and knowing that these union energies that are flowing, which includes not just a physical person, but it's everything to do with your path and your purpose and where you're being placed, and following your inner guidance, and, you know, speaking forth and speaking up, and really owning yourself, okay? And not being in fear of it any longer, not, you know, dimming it down any longer. All of this is a part of what is activating many of us and what's templating on earth when it comes to our sovereignty and our freedom, okay? Some of you might be feeling this freedom already. I know I am. Now, there's stages of where you're feeling the freedom and you're also feeling like, oh, here we go again, and this or that. So it's going to keep going back and forth a little bit until when it continues to become centered. And that's where this full moon in Libra is, where this time of Aries being at 0 degrees is bringing you back into that center, that 0 point, that new beginning phase of your life, and everything to who you are, everything to who everyone is, to where we are with this. And that this time around, you do not have to feel like as if you're doing it alone. You do not have to feel like as if you're being defeated, because there's some that you may be feeling as if there's dark energies and stuff that are trying to stop you and to come into the midst of this. But you know, those gates are just closing off now more and more and more. Doesn't mean that it's completely gone. So I just want you to bear that in mind, because I will be speaking a lot. If this video ends off at 1 hour, I will be coming back on again, because I know Instagram only gives an hour, but there are a lot of messages that are very important during this time for me to share with each and every one of you. So quantum collective change, Uranus and Taurus. What does it mean? It means shaking things up. And I know that that's what I do. I do shake things up as I go along, sometimes consciously aware and sometimes not. And many of you carry that frequency and you can't stop it, okay? And things are being activated here within you. The abundance, stepping into your soul mission, liberation, freedom. And the best part too, me, rebellion. And some people might look at rebellion like, oh, that's not nice. You should be rebellious. But guess what? If I wasn't rebellious, this is what I said to my mom a long time ago when she was here. And I was determined with something that I wanted to do. And I remember Brandon was a baby in a stroller. And I told her, I said, well, if I didn't do this so-and-so and so, then so-and-so wouldn't happen. So I knew there was always a drive in me, a force within me, in when I do things to get things going, to get the wheels in motion, to take action. And I was guided by my higher self to watch Alice in Wonderland again. Maybe it is Wallace. To watch Alice in Wonderland again. And she had to practically convince herself of who she is again. She says, I've been shrunk and I've been stretched. I've been called stupid. Okay. All these things she was called, right? Because it's something that triggers within you to say, am I not this or am I this? Who am I? Who are you, right? And what you're becoming. And you are greater and bigger than what you may not remember and realize, because it's a greater self-realization that you're going to. And so I choose to inspire you as I inspire myself even more to who I am and where this is taking us, okay? And so when Alice said, when she was ready to go to be with the Mad Hatter, I encourage you to watch that movie again. Greetings, Kelly. And she said she was so tiny and she didn't give a fuck that she was that tiny. And she stood before the dog, and when the dog says, "You're diverging from the path," and she said, "I make the path." That's the highlight of that movie, that children's story that's been, given in so many versions. But I love that last one of Alice in Wonderland, because we are all the Alices. Greetings, Nigel. We are all the Alices of our story, okay? And each one of us have fell down into the rabbit hole, and the hole keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And even when you think that, how much deeper can I go? You're going to be taken deeper and deeper, and you're not lost in this hole. It's a matter of, do I know which key I'm going to use to get through this door? And as you open that next door, there's another door to open and another door to open. So what's happening is all these doors that we have opened throughout millenniums, throughout lifetimes, okay, starting from whatever beginning of whatever time, because there's so many beginnings and endings that I think some of you may not even realize that even what was written in scriptures as far as the beginning, there was another beginning before that beginning, and then there was another beginning before that beginning, because it's never ending. It's infinite, okay? We are infinite souls. We're infinite beings that are choosing to walk this path of self-mastery. And this path of self-mastery entails us to go into that sea of forgetfulness. Come with me, my love, through the sea of love, okay? And that sea of love is what we are returning to within ourselves. And so during this time of Pisces, we're moving through so many more emotions and feelings and thoughts and illusions and fears and lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, okay? Some of you might be more intense, and some of you may not be as intense as far as the emotions and the stuff that you have to face. And I really feel that emotions are one of the key necessary ingredients. And I say ingredients in terms of the part of ourselves that have had to go through deeper healing to come back to the self and to be in greater harmony with the self, and greater harmony with love, and greater harmony with what you desire to be and to choose, okay? Really getting past those illusions. And Alice herself had to get past many, many illusions. And she then finally said to herself, well, this is my dream. So therefore, this is not real. And she pinched herself, right? And she realized she was still feeling whatever she was trying to convince herself of, whether she was here or not. I mean, I've had to pinch myself even with things that I've created magically. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Oh my God, this is really happening. And then I said to myself, this is really happening. And then I say it again and again. And so it's all these interdimensional realities and reminding you of this, that we are converging, collapsing, okay? And we're bringing the true reality. And I know some say, well, what is the true reality? Because I know some of us say, well, where we are in the physical 3D world, it's not real, because it's a story that's playing itself out. And yes, there are stories that we've created that have played itself out, that have continued to cycle and cycle and cycle and cycle. The key is, are you able to see your story and to see what it is? Are you able to understand that story that you have created? Are you able to see what more you can change because of your projections or the perceptions that you're making of what you're seeing, to end that karmic cycle and that karmic loop? So now that you are recreating a newer, higher version of yourself, as you're templating your higher self now more on earth as whatever is in heaven, that means that we're truly letting go even more of the things that we think we see and what we think we know based on what we see. I mean, the story can just go on and on and on to how I can explain this. So I'll do the best that I can, so that way we have less confusion. The key is, what can I take responsibility for when it comes to my thoughts and feelings? What can I now begin with this part of my journey, as we are already entered in this portal? Because this is a portal right now of a great magnitude. This portal is, what can I now release from all of the stories that I have created in past lives, even if it was with my twin? All the versions of self that have played out with the karmic relationships that you've had, the karmic relationships that your twin has had, the karmic energy that you have also created together, so you can now come back into a greater harmony and peace to live out now, to be that truthful expression of self, okay? So now what this means is coming back into a greater independence besides the rebellion, okay? Because it's just like how many of you, that if you remember when you first started awakening, you started to feel rebellious, like angry, like what the heck is this? And why is this happening? And this is fake and this is not real. You know what I mean? So remember again that This has been in place from a long time ago because we chose to gather up information. We chose to gather up all this data. Everything that you've experienced so far, everything that you have shifted through, that data is taken back to the Godhead. And it's stored either in the Akashic records, or it's also looked at for some more in-depth, analysis of what more you are becoming from your soul. What more are you activating within your soul, okay? And really setting yourself free, because, this time is where the veil is even more thin, okay? It's like, well, how much more thinner is it going to be? It's going to be so much more thinner, to the point where, again, this is about becoming naked to your soul. And no more cover up, no more mask. There's still people walking around with masks on, and I see right through them. Like, you have one thing they say they're going to do, and then the next thing I see something else plays out. And I look and I sense like, wow, I see right through you. I see right through you. Okay. I see right through things. And this is where most of you, or some of you, are at, where you're seeing things that you don't want to see, that you don't like what you see, that you may feel disappointed by what you see. And now where do you go from here? And again, this is about, I see what I see. What is my perception of it? What am I now going to do to either shift through it or heal through it and move through it? So now that I'm in awareness of it, I now can step into a new energy and create a new timeline. It's about creating a new timeline. So you're no longer in those older timelines that have been playing out over and over and over and over again. So as you remember that, all you had to do is click your heels, drink the blood of the voluptuous thing, what do you call it, that creature, okay? The wicked witch is dead. The munchkins can now come out. The munchkins can now come out. The munchkins can now come out, okay? Come out wherever you are, and set yourselves free, okay? It has always been you all this time that has had the power to set yourself free. And that freedom means that you're going to be taking quantum leaps from who you've been before. And you're now stepping into a part of yourself that you have never been able to get this far. Okay. To get through this portal and to get through this time of becoming greater than you have ever been. And that means that you're going to be speaking out, being it, owning it, and continuing to talk about it or express it. Okay. Really coming from your soul and expressing who you have always been and desired to be. And you're no longer hiding about this. Okay. Even if you feel that it has never been shown to you, or even if you've never done it before, because that's where you're going to show your greatness, is what you've never done before, that even if it's crazy. Okay. So it's about, what this means when you're elevating in consciousness and you're excelling at it. I took these notes. Also, what is happening to do with the cosmic energy, what we can no longer think about surviving, and this energy of how we're connecting to Mother Earth, right? This is where Taurus comes in, because we're breaking up the old behavior and patterns of things that have existing on Earth, and it's abrupt, okay? So a lot of you may be going through very much abrupt changes. It could be cycle of changes with where you live. It could be cycle of changes with your relationships that you have with others. It could be things that you don't do anymore, certain things you may not eat anymore. Sleeping patterns have changed. You might be going through changes with your thoughts also, because there's a lot of mental stuff that we've had to also shift from, with how we process things and view things, from that mental space and the logical space, like thinking, well, this doesn't make sense, so I'm not going to do this. Because now it's about, well, it's not about only how it is from the logical standpoint, but also what is your heart telling you, because you're so used to the mental thought that it has to make sense, or it's supposed to be the way you have done it before, what you've been taught growing up. And therefore, if it's not making sense, then you're not going to do it. So it's all of this that is being abruptly changing within your life, or changing in your outer world. Okay. And it's starting internally first, of course. Okay. There's also advancements of things and how we're seeing things in a new way. And, I always say typically with most human beings is that they don't like to go through things in a new way or experience things in a new way. It's always usually mostly about sticking to the old ways of doing things. And, the new ways of doing things, it might not even be shown to you right away. You might not even know what it is. So we're going to remain, the Spirit says, to be in, we're going to be like in a space of unknown, the unknown zone. Like you don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes you just have to just not know what's going to happen and just really ride the waves. Okay. And you're on the surfboard. You don't know where the surfboard is going to take you. And you just continue being on these waves, and that you allow the waters to take you where it's going to take you. You allow your feelings to take you where it's going to take you, and that you don't have to be so attached to it to the point where you can't function, or you start to feel as if you're being punished, or you're not doing the right thing, and then you bring in that judgment energy. So you don't have to do that. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to go into my notes again, what I wrote down. I've been taking notes all week, whatever been shown to me, and I'm going to discuss also in even greater detail with what's happening to do with the divine masculine, especially because this is the time of the divine masculine in a great way. Okay. And you said your heart chakra have been blocked. Well, when it comes to your heart chakra, that means that there are things that you are working through with fears. Sometimes that's what blocks, when some people have blocks in their heart, and that means that there's fears. They're wanting to hold on to, especially when it comes to relationships, they want to hold on to the way a relationship is, whether they fear loss surrounding that relationship. Also, it has to do with also self-worth. Okay. And sometimes when people say they feel heartbroken or feeling let down, and you ask yourself, how have you let yourself down? So there's many factors to when your heart chakra is blocked, and how you can allow yourself to connect to your heart and connect to your feelings is allowing yourself to feel a new space of love, a new way of love. That love is always present. Okay. A lot of times, people tend to think that love is something you have to do something to have it. You got to be somewhere to receive it. And it's for you to allow yourself to know that love is always present and that you're always receiving it all the time. It's for you to open up your mind, your thought, your feelings to receive it. Okay. Which is feminine. Okay. So that's how you can allow your heart to not be blocked any longer when it comes to love. Okay. So the spring equinox. What does this mean? The spring equinox is in the northern hemisphere. It represents the masculine rebirth. It also represents how much more of the soul is entering the body. So it's not where it's just starting, because it's more like it feels like it's flowing at a greater frequency. It is much stronger. You even feel lighter. You feel like as if things are starting to show up in your physical world, okay? And you feel even more lighthearted. That's a part of, your soul. And that means that you're also listening to your soul, because your soul is always communicating with you, okay? And you're also living from your soul. So no matter what, there is a great rebirth that's happening with the masculine. There's a new template of the divine masculine that's integrating at 0 degrees of Libra, coming forth from the soul's desires, and is happening as a reset and activation of the Christ consciousness. Now, another thing that I was shown to me early this morning, because I was recording for the book, and I had a dream to do with my twin and his 2 brothers, okay? And there was one brother that was in the dream who was a reflection of someone that I had a relationship with back in 2011. And when I came to a certain realization in the dream where I said, oh, we're friends, and there wasn't anything sexual involved with him, then the next brother came in, which was the divine complement. And so after that happened, then my twin came into the picture in the dream. So I looked at it like I think of geometry, okay? And you think of the geometry like when you have the degree and the angle, right? On certain points with the numbers. And so I gave an example of, say, one male, I'm going to refer to it as male, okay, masculine energy in my life, where even the ones that I've had past relationships with, either with the one I was married to or one, because they all have played a version of my twin, every single one of them. I talk about it so many times in details. So you think about all the relationships that you've had, whether it's a feminine or a masculine, and what version of that person is playing out an energy that is your twin. Okay, because it always helps you to get back to the one, right? Or I should say, get back to that 0 degree, and it's re-entering the 0 degree of Aries, which is that new beginning cycle. Okay, and we may think that sometimes coming back to the self means that we get rid of, but it's more integrating. And what they showed me was, it's like, again, I've spoken about this before, it's the soul convergence. And so when I think about it, in terms of 4 males, right? And one represent like 30 degree, another one 20. And then it's this is where it's moving in that cycle. So you have the 30 degree cycle, then 20, and then 10, and then say it goes to 0. And so what I realize is that all of those males, all of that energy, it has been moving in cycles. Okay. How is it measured? I don't know, but this is how they show me. It's moving in measurement and cycles, okay? So in this lifetime, at this present moment, during this cycle of the full moon, in the full moon in Libra, in what comes into balance, because we're balancing out so much of the self and relationships. And it's like all the parts of myself from my masculine side has been converging through the shadow elements of the masculine. Okay, so in other words, all of that convergence has been happening as it's coming back into this center and that 0 point. And what it does is that it's like that part what was written in so many scriptures and references and books is picking up all the pieces, putting all the pieces together, putting all the parts of the self together that makes up the whole. Because before we were whole, we were united, we weren't in separation, we were androgynous. And then we desired to know ourselves by what? Separating. So we separated ourselves into parts and more pieces and more parts of the self. Okay. In both respect, in the shadow part and the light, it was both. And so what we're doing is we're integrating and bringing it closer and closer and closer and closer. And it's just converging and so I was glad that I wanted to show this, how it looked, how I was seeing it in vision and spirit. I've seen it before, and now it's like they're showing it to me like it can go in cycles for each pair. Okay, so pay attention to your dreams, especially what is showing up in your dream state, what is being communicated between yourself and your twin, because during this time of Mercury as well, Mercury being in Pisces had to do with communication. A lot of communication. I've been dreaming about so much to do with phone calls and the energy of talking and communicating with my twin and how we're communicating with each other. And it's within the self. It's still within the self. Then it's so real, like you could feel it, like you know it. So how are you connecting to yourself in all the parts of you that has split, right, into all these different elements of self on both sides, okay? And how you can bring it together. And as you are bringing it together, it doesn't mean that you're going to act out the parts of the self that have been shadow. It's only because if certain things occur, then it might bring it out. So now, are you able to keep it together now and come from a space of emotional integrity and emotional wisdom? Okay. I think about all the movies, especially with Glass, to do with the guy that had all these personalities, because that's the part of ourselves that split into all these different elements of self. And he represented what? Male and female. He was on both sides of this energy until something had to be understood about the power that came with all the different parts of self, because to know when to step up to the plate, to know when, if you came from anger, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to bring forth with the anger? If you do have anger, are you able to be centered without being angry? Are you able to not have to respond to things that may have affected you before? And you're able to see things for what it is from the higher perspective, but still honoring your feelings from the parts of yourself that chooses to, to express itself, because that's what's important, is to express your feelings and what you have been feeling, because that's what helps you to feel healthier within yourself. And it's not staying dormant inside of you, building up into something that becomes unhealthy. Okay. So now I go into the new moon in Pisces, okay, which occurred about a week ago. I believe it was, or 2 weeks ago. And it's moving into the space now of the full moon. Okay. And so we've had to look through and review feelings, imagination, bringing closure. What type of visualization have you been having? Your feelings that have been imprinted on earth, right? What you're giving birth to in the physical sense. This is where the moon is, which is feminine, is what it wants, okay? What you want deep down inside, okay? Again, how you're relating to your emotions and your with your desires and how it makes you feel, okay? The masculine now is the one that brings it into the physical space, because the feminine attracts it and it comes from the spiritual sense, and the masculine brings it into the physical sense in getting what he or she wants, because it could be a female that carries masculine energy and it could be a male that carries feminine energy, okay? So it's all about how you're connecting the spiritual and the physical together, and it's coming together as one outlet, as one energy. And when we're able to balance out, which is where the full moon is activating you to balance out even more of yourself, okay, within you, and how it relates to your twin, and when your twin does it also within themselves, because you're also activating it on your end as well, where you're not necessarily having to separate it, but it's about navigating between both parts of the self and understanding it and what it means for you with these changes, okay? So the next thing I wrote here is that the feminine creates through magic, intuition, creation, desiring, feelings, and connecting. The masculine is the activity and making things happen through this rebirth, and the physical manifestation is occurring. Because if anyone knows that twins bring on a certain type of magic within, together especially, okay? And this magic itself is something that you don't even have to hear them say anything. It's what comes together with the pair, or the element of what comes together with that specific dynamic, okay? Because some may have a dynamic of 2s and 3s, like I've stated before. This is what has been shown to me. I wrote this down years ago, and I saw it in spirit, how the divine has the experiences in many, many myriad of ways, okay? And I'm still in that element of just paying attention to my experiences, in understanding it and putting the pieces together every step of the way as I go along. So the full moon is a result of your actions, your twin soul physical reunion, your passion, your purpose, your career, financial abundance. The full moon represents the birth of what has been created for this year. Also, Venus is also playing a very major part in this time frame as well. I'm not an astrologer, but it's like whatever I hear, I'm going to just say what I hear, and I'm going to write down what I hear, and I'm going to speak it so it'll make sense for you and me at the same time. So Venus is the planet of love and relationships, and Libra is the ruling planet of Venus, okay? And I found out that, because I was born on a Friday, and I didn't know that Venus there is the ruling planet for Fridays. I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's why I just love talking about love and everything to do with love and the expression of love and what it means and all that stuff. And it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So the 0 point is the degree of what is being reset during this full moon. Okay. And it has to do with your relationships, the dynamic of all your relationships, okay? Taking you to deeper love, which is Earth, and higher love at the same time, the higher dimensional love, okay, which is Aquarius. And then this part in and of itself means that we're looking at and reviewing, okay, why Mercury was in retrograde, the relationships of the past. And what I've had to look at for myself is, how do I say it? How I've been looking at anything that has been dormant within me to do with my emotions of what I experienced in past lives and this life when it comes to relationships. Okay, so I'll give you an example. I ended up watching Acrimony for the first time. I've been wanting to watch it for so long, finally had the opportunity to watch it. And what that movie taught me was how not only, how I felt as a female, but looking at it from the viewpoint of her telling the story. And then the switch was flipped. It was flipped where now it went back to the male in how he was, and the perception I had of him changed because it wasn't what she thought it was. And this is what this Pisces energy has represented, and the Neptune in Pisces as well, is the things that we perceive and how we look at it. Is that really what it is? And what is it doing for you and how you have perceived things in your relationships in the past? Okay. And the first thing with her that I saw within myself, similarly, not the same, is when she allowed herself to be treated the way she did in the relationship. When she caught him cheating, she got angry, and the way she dealt with her anger was that she drove her vehicle into his home, his mobile home, and then she herself ended up becoming injured. And so she dealt with her emotions by acting out in anger, which ended up hurting her in the end because she was not able to have kids anymore. She ended up having to have a hysterectomy. And so that now led to her still getting married to him. She was not honoring herself continuously throughout the marriage. While in the meantime, he was trying to do something to make things better financially for the two of them, but he wasn't working. She was supporting him, supporting the relationship, and dishonoring herself at the same time. But at the same time, she was sticking by him with what he was trying to do for them as a family. But then later on, when finally it got to the point where he ended up getting divorced because she thought that he was cheating on her, and he ended up, he was telling the truth, but she didn't believe him. And so why I'm telling you this story, because this is usually what has happened throughout lifetimes with relationships, where one person goes with the other, they get together based on a perception of what they think the person can do for them or not do for them. Then sometimes you have some that they get into these relationships because whether the female is having a child or not for them, and so they want to do the right thing. And then they also want to go by the tradition and how it looks, to the family. And, they want to please the mother, because I don't want to do, because if I'm the oldest one and I got to do what's right for the family. And also, the one person may be dishonoring themselves by giving, and there's no receiving. And they choose not to let go. And then the other person then, in the movie, she then changes her mind because she realized that now he was accepted for the product that he was trying to put together. And she spent all the money that her mother bequeathed to her towards this man. But in the end, the script changed around because he did end up becoming successful with it. He apologized to her. He gave her $10 million. And what ended up happening is that he ended up getting married to the other female. And so she became distraught because she felt that she deserved to be experiencing this with him. And it didn't happen. And this is what's happened with a lot of divine feminines, a lot. But they say, why did he pick her? Why did he get married to her? Or why did he go with her? Why didn't he pick me? And so remember, we go back to the time of Atlantis again. We've gone back there so many times. Okay. And I'm not going deep with it because when I talk about it now, it's almost like, but I understand and I understand that sometimes there's something deeper. Like, I spoke about in the segment I did this morning, when we go into the deep end of the ocean, the ocean is what? Emotions, feelings, and what we have deep within ourselves as far as pain. And so I felt betrayed. I felt let down. I felt dishonored. I felt like as if, what, am I nothing? Why did my divine masculine pick someone else and went straight into this other relationship? And then it went further and further and further. And so it's taken on two different sides now, okay? Because now we're talking about what also was triggered with my other divine masculine, because I could feel how he felt with me going into a relationship. And this has happened in other times, and where sometimes with some females, if one person doesn't fulfill everything that you want, then you're going to go to the next person and the next person and the next person. And then there's some, on the male side where they want to keep going with more and more different females, like they have trophies or the concubine, and, all these types of relationships is what has existed before and still now. And what happens is that the movie itself turned out to be tragic, okay? And I say that because She, in the end, decided after the fact that she wanted to be with her husband because the dreams that he aspired finally came true. But he moved on. But he said that he still loved her, but that wasn't enough for her. And you see, during the course of the relationship, she never really expressed herself to him. She never really stood up for herself. She didn't open up her mouth. She just kept taking and taking. When they weren't sleeping in the same bed together, she wasn't talking about it. And so there was these things building up in her mind, and she was projecting and projecting until finally something happened where he did end up going to, that other woman. And he moved on with his life. And what happened is that her emotions were so buried deep within her that it became destructive. And she wasn't speaking from a place of understanding and letting go or forgiveness, even of herself. And so what ended up happening is that she was looking at everything on social media, which is what a lot of divine feminines do. Look at everything on social media. And it goes both ways. And, and then saying, oh, look at what she's doing. She has everything that I wanted. And he's doing this with her and this and that. And then what ended up happening is she started to become enraged. Okay. And that enragement, her family tried to help her. And that enragement turned into something where she was practically going to want to do something destructive. Okay. And this is what happens when we keep our emotions so buried deep within. And we're not expressing ourselves. We're not expressing our true feelings. And then going into more relationships that you're not being authentic. Okay. And that means that, and when I say authentic, meaning that, first of all, you're going in with more baggage, more karma, and then it continues to loop over and over again. And it's also passed on from one generation to the other. And then sometimes it becomes so sad because then sometimes children are conceived in these karmic loops of where, there's feelings of anger and resentment and what has happened, or the feeling that the female may have towards the male, or vice versa. And so it's these relationships that have existed where there wasn't anything connecting with either one or two or three as far as the truth, and really being transparent and really being authentic. And in the end of the movie, she ended up shooting him. And, and then the other one fell overboard, and then she ended up dying. And I said, wow, what a tragic story. But this is a part of what has been the cycle of pain that has existed on earth when it comes to relationships. People who don't end up being with who they really love or truly love from their heart. And they end up being in relationships where there's control and power over the other. There was a soul reading I had done on myself a long time ago, back in 2015, and Spirit had me review it, and I was talking about it in that segment. And it was an eye-opener, and it's not that I never discussed it before, but, every time when you go through another level of ascending, there's something new that's showing up for you to see. And it was a time when I was being given a choice to stay in the priesthood or the priestess, or get married to this person who I know was my twin. And what happened is I ended up being treated as the concubine, as what you call the side chick. So what I said in the segment. I said, we call it nowadays, it's a new name. They call it the side chick. And so the side chick, or the, that part of myself, and whatever title or label it was back then, I was dishonoring myself. Okay. And these things have to show up through the divine masculine for the divine feminine to see it for herself, because if these karmic stories were not existing, we would not be able to see things for what it is. Okay. And it has to do with coming back to yourself with your own feelings, how we're reconnecting to what we desire. And as we do that for ourselves, the divine masculine will also do that for themselves as well. Okay. And all these distortedness and staying in marriages and relationships that are not serving the highest and best for everyone involved. And then the dysfunctions that continue on, and the separation cycles. And this is what we're ending, is the separation cycles, and getting past the illusions of separation, getting past the illusions of fear of not being able to be our true selves. Okay. Everything that has disintegrated with families and children and freedom too. Freedom of expression, freedom to be who you choose to be, where you're from, being able to talk about that you're from another planet and what you're here to express and to be and bring it on. You know what I mean? It's everything. It's everything. Are you going to continue to compromise yourself and not speak the truth and say, hey, I'm an alien here, or whatever the case may be? How do you relate to yourself and your journey and who you're connected to? How much do you believe and trust and know that regardless of what's showing in the physical world from your twin or whoever that you're connected to, of what's really real and getting past those illusions? So it's all of that energy is what's disintegrating and pushing through. And then we're converging the true, the true element of the divine masculine. Okay. And that means that the ego is dying more and more. It's just dying. And it also means what part of them is stepping into their power and speaking up now and speaking their truth and speaking from their heart. Because I had that dream, to do with my twin where he was speaking to me again. And he looked different, than how he looked now, in terms of his face. But I knew that it was something taking place in a past life that was seeping into this life. In terms of the feelings, though, is what I was paying attention to. Okay. And it had to do with his connecting to work, because there's also the enslavement frequency that's also leaving from a lot of us. I've had several people that I talk to and they say, oh, they're tired of the type of work they're doing and the hours and the long hours, and they don't have time for themselves. There's no freedom. And that's also a block that has existed with a lot of twins. No freedom, no time to be together. That's existed with families too. When last have you been able to sit down and have dinner with your family? When last have you been able to sit down and laugh and smile? Or is there a constant loop of one person is working and the other person's working, the other one is doing this, then they go into more separation, then they're not able to be with each other. There's no intimacy with neither children or anyone for the matter. And then everyone is just constantly going their separate ways, and they're attached to the phones, or they're attached to the TV, or they're attached to their friends, and everything else is just all these attachments, you see? And so this is about how much more am I going to come into more of myself in nurturing and releasing myself from all of the enslavement that has existed on earth, in not being able to spend time with myself, being able to sit with yourself, to heal thyself, heal the relationship that you have with you so you can have greater harmony with the relationship that you can have with others. I can't begin to tell you how many phone calls I get every week from people wanting to know about someone else and what's happening with them. And there's pain that they have, or there might be disillusionment that they have, or fears that they have. It's so easy to start attaching to fears just like instantly, just because they're basing it on something that they see and not coming back to that heart center and that feeling, the gut feeling within you, like, is this true or is this not true? Okay. So anyway, I'm going to go back into my notes so I don't forget anything. And I was talking about the convergence of the divine masculine again, balancing out the light and the shadow. And this Mercury in retrograde has to do with the review of the past programming and templates of the dark side and shadow of the feminine and masculine, separation consciousness, jealousy also, releasing and purifying the Cain and Abel story, that's one of the stories that I have, I know has been a part in my template, is the Cain and Abel story, where one brother killed the other brother, and then it switched again in another way. Some of you may have that template that's running as a program in the background. I talk about that we don't realize that there's programs that are running in the background, just like in a computer. When your computer gets stuck and it's not going anywhere, right? It's because there's another program running in the background. Or it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 programs. How many times you when you look and you click on, like I click on it right now, and I gotta keep pressing Alt Control Delete so it shows what programs are running in the background so it doesn't stay stuck anymore. So in order for the computer to work and function the way that it could, I got to release those programs out of the background of the computer. And once I start collapsing all those programs, the computer is moving faster. Okay? It's moving faster. And it's no longer running programs in the background. So how many programs do you feel is running in your background? How many? It could be quite a bit. Okay? And even though you may think that, well, I've done my healing and I've done everything that I could possibly do, but then there might be something more. Again, about going deeper into the core of Earth. You know, it's like what was shown to me for the past several weeks is what has been showing up in the inner realm just as much as the outer realm. Okay, the inner core of you just as much as the inner core of Earth. There are people who are really residing in the inner core of Earth, and it was shown to me before. And I speak it out now, and it's the truth. And this goes back to the time of Atlantis, when people were escaping and leaving and ducking and running someplace else and going someplace else because of all of the fears and things that were happening when we were descending in consciousness. Okay. And so what part of you can now release and let go of those programs that have been running in your background? Okay. And as you are releasing those old programs, then you're starting to feel yourself feeling lighter, and you're able to move forward. And for you to move forward, that means you have to address those programs. Okay. And addressing them doesn't mean that you're going to attach to it. It means that you're detaching from it. You see it for what it is. You're in awareness of what it is. And now you can release and let it go. So that way you're now serving your highest purpose. Okay. Now the completion of the female manipulation of control, of males dominating females, having multiple partners, going through from one relationship to the next without healing the wounds, because it has to do with healing those wounds, your wounds, okay? Healing the emotional feelings and thoughts of the past with these wounds. Wounds in relationship. It's like healing the layers of pain, rejection, abandonment, layers from the emotional body, because it's not just it's not just the emotional body. You have your mental body, okay, what's taking up in the mental space, also the spiritual and etheric body, and then of course the physical body. Okay, the physical body is also going through changes and having to heal as well, because sometimes it might show up in pain. Sometimes it might show up as triggers, and sometimes it might be headaches, and sometimes the headaches is not necessarily triggers, but it could be where you're receiving downloads that are flowing through you. I had some headaches that was happening to me within the past 2 days. I tried not to take anything for it, but then it seeped in the next day. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm still moving through some energy here. Okay. I also had nasal congestion. Some of you might have earaches. Okay. And ringing in the ears. Sleeping very long hours. Oh, that was definitely one of my, I don't want to say symptoms. It was just a part of the process is what I call it. It's a part of the process. Sometimes the sleeping long hours or taking a nap or having to take a nap. Now, of course, with my daughter and I, we make jokes about this, is that sometimes the nap is just because sometimes they say black people, when they have problems, they take a nap. But in this case, it wasn't problems. It had to do with what I was releasing from within me, and also receiving downloads. I was receiving a lot of downloads, and I had to be disconnecting from others. What's interesting, what I noticed is that I was not able to remember some dreams that I was having. So I started to talk to Spirit. I said, well, what's going on? Why can't I remember? It's like I was trying to capture it, and I tried and I couldn't. And then Spirit says, well, what was happening is that I was going through a purification. So some of you may be going through a purification of these thoughts that you have, the emotional thoughts or the mental thoughts. Okay. And it's necessary, because there's no need to take that energy with you as we are in this portal. You see what I'm saying? And so you're going to be feeling like as if you're not remembering anything, because it's time that you're releasing. And when I think about it, it's been so many lifetimes that you have had. You don't realize how many thoughts you have accumulated from each lifetime. That's like, you think about every day, you're already going through hundreds of thousands of thoughts. Okay. I know that might be an exaggeration, but that's a lot of thoughts. So imagine you have thoughts that you're accumulating from other lifetimes. So this is what's processing through and pushing through from within your vortex and your energetic field. And as you're doing, that's why it's important to take sea salt baths. If you are in an area where you can get to the beach, go to the beach as much as you can, because all of this helps that part of yourself to be able to release some of that energy that you have accumulated and had, within you. Okay, so it's going to cut off in 20 something seconds, and I'm going to return back again to complete this video. Okay, so I'll be right back. Can't run away from yourself. Nope, can't run away. You must have done something wrong. Well, we can't run, we can't hide. We can run, but we cannot hide. Cannot run away any longer from what changes are happening within us. No more running. Running away. Running away. No more running.
Every man thing get his burden is the heaviest. Every man thing get his burden is the heaviest.
No more running. Who feels it, knows it, Lord. Who feels it, knows it. Who feels it, knows it, Lord. Who feels it, knows it, Lord. Who feels it, knows it. And, I think about, when we think about the experiences that we've had, they say he who feels it, knows it. Let us walk in another person's moccasins, another person's shoes to know what it feels like, on this journey. And oftentimes I realize that human beings do not necessarily want to pay attention to what's happening in someone else's life because they're not going through it. So why bother? But I tell you this, that one of the messages that I've received is that many of those who are on this path, the twin soul path especially, we are being activated even greater to bring on these dynamic shifts of relationships. Why I was supposed to go even deeper with it. And what it means is that we're bringing in what we call the light and the shadow to become equal, the light and the dark to become equal, and balance. That all the things that have triggered us in the past emotionally, that we're now able to clear the emotional body and know that love has always existed within us. Love has always been there, but we have to get back to the core of this love deep within our hearts and souls by shifting through all the illusions that we have created. And that's what it is. We've created all these illusions. It has played out itself. It's played like like I said, the version or the background of what's running in the computer. As after a while, you get tired of the old programs, okay? And so there's also the detachment from the matrix. A lot of the divine masculine is now being, I would say, cut off from the matrix, or we're removed from the matrix. We're no longer a part of the matrix. And because we're no longer part of the matrix, we're able to see beyond the veil into what the truth is when it comes to these true partnerships and these true connections. Because no matter what is happening out there with the relationships, the 3D relationships, it cannot hold in that space any longer with these frequencies. And so the Christ consciousness is now templating even more within the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And what that means is that it's breaking down the structures that have existed to do with old relationships. And that's where, when we were in the Capricorn energy, things are being restructured, and Uranus shake things up now, where if you're not leaving out of certain elements of relationships that are no longer serving you, where there's control and ego and power, all that stuff, it's going to continue to break down more and more. So we're clearing the karma, we're removing repeat experiences, and what these removing these the repeat experiences and karma that has existed, it helps to uplift the twin flame connection into a greater state of harmony, So the key elements towards creating this higher level connection is listening to your inner knowing, your intuition. There's also forgiveness, speaking up for yourself, standing in your power. Okay, that's the key element, standing in your power. So a lot of times there have been some elements of divine masculine and divine feminine that do not stand in their power, and they don't speak up. And for the third time, and so I'm going to finish what I was saying, but I got to start again. But this time, Bob Marley is saying, I got to get this song in, the natural mystic in the air. You see? There's a natural mystic in the air. Yes. There's a natural mystic blowing in the air. And that natural mystic is actually the frequency of what's coming from the central sun, you see? Because that is where we were created, from the central sun. And so the children of the Most High, you are now retemplating yourselves, you see? The true kings and queens, and the queens and kings, you see? Yes. And there have been a lot of transitions that have been taking place also. I have to mention that as well, you know? So this is about what's coming in as the equal parts of the self, the light and the dark, the night and day, okay? The shadow element. And we think about this month, March, 333, and that's the element of the light and the shadow, you see? This is a part of the element of the Christ consciousness. And when I was talking about the degree and the angle in geometry of the divine masculine and feminine, think about geometry also. They showed me the symbol of the Merkaba. You know, when you think about the degree and the angle, and when you see it, it's just like holding a compass, you know, because I remember in school, you know, when you have the compass and you have the thing and you're turning it. And so the element of the divine masculine is converging again and integrating and coming back into that one centered space. And so there are codes that are flowing even more so now during this spring equinox, as we're continuously clearing the karma, removing the repeat experiences, and uplifting the twin flame connection, because it is through the twin flame connection that all of the things that I discussed, at least most of the things I discussed to do with past relationships, it is going to continue to disintegrate, and it's going to keep tearing the walls down. Also, with the twin flame connections, what's happening is that people are having to, compelled to come back to their heart, to connect to their heart. I already know 2 people that have had indirect and direct contact with me, and something has happened with them to do with their heart. Nothing in a negative way, but this is what the energy does. It's that we are being pushed and compelled to come from our heart, to come from an authentic place, to be truth, to be, in emotional integrity, where we can't hide and wear all these masks when it comes to dealing with each other. Nothing will be hidden. Nothing. I said that to someone the other day. I said, you know, there's nothing to be hidden out there. So therefore, for those who are on their path and you know that there's something for you to speak about, there's something for you to discuss, there's something for you to not compromise yourself with others. So in other words, if someone comes up to you and say, who are you? What are you here for? What is that you're doing? Why are you talking about that? Are you going to compromise yourself and not speak about it because you're in fear of what they may think about you? Or are you going to speak up? Are you going to speak your truth now? Are you going to live your purpose and your passion? Or are you going to compromise yourself? So if you feel that you do not have enough strength and courage to do that, this is what the energy of the Christ consciousness was flowing through from the outer planets. Andromeda is also involved with the galaxies. There's a lot of support that you're getting. And this is about really surrendering even more to your path and being and feeling empowered with it. Remember, I was talking about Alice. She didn't have to rediscover herself. There's nothing to discover here because you've always been who you were. You always have been who you are. I am that I am that I am. For you to have remembered yourself as who you am, you had to go through the I am not experiences, who you're not, who you're choosing not to be. And it is through that aspect and element of I am notness that you find yourself again, that you awaken to yourself again. And so everything is supporting itself to do with your journey, to do with your path, and what that means for you, what it means for your twin, what it means for your family and your twin soul's family, because you're here to break down everything that has been a barrier to love. This is about how much more we are lifting the consciousness of the planet when it comes to love. What is love? What is true love to you? What does it mean for you? What does it mean for your children? Because you see, it is this new template of the divine masculine and the divine feminine that's bringing in a higher order, a higher element of consciousness when it comes to the next generation. You see, I think about, again, of my granddaughter, Akasha, and my grandson, and how they are just in their freedom with who they are. And whatever I have taught my children, that they're teaching them, that they are in their full expression. Because why? Because I support it. If any one of you out there are in a space of fear because of who you are, I said to someone, I don't care if you have 10 feet or you have 4 eyeballs, okay? Or you have something extending out of you, or you whatever it is, okay? I know it may seem like it's crazy, but who knows if that really does exist. But just know that this is about being able to be yourself and not feeling judged. And that includes with who you love, who you're in love with, really coming from your true heart and being an expression of it, okay? Because the more that twins come together and they're in their full expression of love and they're in full expression of their passion and they're not in fear, is the more the blessings come in. Is the more it is also poured onto earth, okay? And no matter what, there is divine intervention that is occurring right now. What is that divine intervention? It's right now. That's what it is. Can you see it? No. Is it there? Yes. It has always been there. But now that many of us have freed ourselves from the old programming that has been running in the background, as we're continuing to do that, and then we're taking the element of what has been before and placing it in a box, okay, in another box, that you don't have to compartmentalize yourself based on what your mom and your dad and everyone else in the past has placed for you and saying, this is how you got to be, and this is how it has to be, and this is what I see for you, and blah, blah, blah. Those programs are no longer going to be able to run, okay, in this sequence, okay? It's outdated. Do any of you still have what they call 8-track tapes? Do you know what 8-track tapes are? Anybody would laugh at you if you were to take out an 8-track tape, okay? And then we went from 8-track tape to what? Records, vinyl records. Now, there's some people who probably still, I have some vinyl records from my mom and dad, and there might be some record players out there that have been playing. And then we moved from records to what? To CDs. And now it's to MP3 and MP4, the iPods, right? I couldn't tell when last I played a CD. Okay? And so Uranus, again, is supporting these changes. The Uranus in Taurus, the earth. Okay? The earth element, the physical. Aries, the beginning, physical. Okay? What's new? And the more that anyone is in resistance to what's new, including relationships, including who you are, your body is going through changes. We're bringing in more of the crystalline energy and the crystalline structure of the body. Whether anybody chooses to believe it or not, tough titties is what I say, because I know what I see, and I see it in energy, I see it in spirit, and they show me that even the new babies that are coming in, they're going to be being born with more crystalline structure, especially for a lot of twins that are bringing on the element of these conceptions, okay, because some of these children are not here yet. They are not here yet. I repeat, they're not here yet. They will be starting to come in between, they show me between 20 and 2022, but mostly 2022. 222s have been showing up in my frequency a lot. I've been seeing that number and vibration. besides 555. So I know that there's a lot of energetic shifts that are happening on a grand scale, and that almost everyone is being placed like chess pieces. So remember that even those who are what we consider karmic, they're still assisting us with what has to show up from the unconscious to make it conscious. That we are in a greater awareness of what has held back from many of us to be on our path to this true love, where there's no more interfering or no more of these energies that try to stop us or stop it, because it cannot be stopped. And imagine if many more of us were to be more empowered within ourselves, that it doesn't continue any longer, because it's not anyway. So that reign of what we call of terror or fear is just not going to exist anymore. It's just like somebody telling me, hey, you know, this is going to happen. I get to choose. Do I choose to believe what someone else says, or am I going to connect to my heart in what is true? Am I going to believe what has been written before in the past, or am I going to connect to the now moment, the present moment? That's the key. That's the key to your freedom. Okay? Your reality and how it shows up is based on how you feel inside and your thoughts and your beliefs. Are you ready to let go? Are you ready to step into the new space now? Because the universe, the cosmos, all of it is supporting you and supporting us for this, okay? We have many who have been ancestors in the past that have gone through stuff with their relationships and patterns and behaviors and stuff that has existed before. And they're still here. And they are supporting us. They're supporting you. Yeshua and Mary Magdalene were not able to complete the process of this path in what was templating on earth. And that's why we're all here now, to be of support with one another and to continue with this process, and knowing that between now and the next 3 months, we're going through a greater integration process of the divine masculine and also the divine feminine that is supporting these changes. And that's the key. So anyway, I just wanted to deliver these messages today. I am in gratitude that whatever you receive that is coming from source and everything and everyone else that is with us right now to support the element of change and more change, movements and shifts in consciousness. Okay. Let's take a deep breath. Inera kito kunira pata sikuto shinapate. Kito sukumbere, putumbeba, tukundelapo, kokose, shala kito no kumbere. Anil de kundela la pata, kuto simbira peti, kinanti shekano kudera pate, tesera kune. Ate de koto shinebe, peta kunibelam, pukumbera. Kondo shekama bata kito ndera, kumbela peta kunira pete. Ono kunila la ticha kunira patis kito numbira kito su kunira katashi kito tu skita na meketa kotushke ali de kito kunina la kita na kita kono kono kida kara kara kono kida kara kara kono kono kida kara kara kono kida kara kara kono kida pa kito robera ani kito ko sila tekina mu kusimira tisha mu bira ko mirara. There are many of us that will be activating each other, because each one of us holds specific codes, again, different templates. Be mindful of what you take into your own energetic field from others, as they are also going through their process of releasing old programs and energy. The major thing is remembering that everything that you are being is as far as your own integrity, authenticity, speaking up, speaking your truth, forgiveness, and letting go of any of the judgments that you may have carried in the past. Because as you set yourself free with that, they're saying, it opens up another frequency of what's coming together for you in your own union space. Okay, and that's what I'm hearing. Very important to ground yourself, I'm hearing, at this time. Stay in your knowing. Your inner knowing is key and very important. That you don't allow yourself to be distracted from somebody telling you whether or not someone is your twin, or someone else telling you that that's not the right path, or blah, 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 or it's not going to happen in this lifetime. All of that is just diversion, okay? So don't allow yourself to be diverted. And I just keep hearing to keep empowering yourselves. Empowering yourselves. One of the greatest advice I could ever give anyone to how you can allow yourself to become more empowered, just do it. Just do it. It's not going to matter 3 months from now or 6 months from now, because it's not about what other people say. It's about what you know to be true. And as you are living it and being it, that whatever anyone else says, whatever is going to be reflecting outside of you, it's not going to matter, because you're going to attract people who are resonating with you, okay? And it's going to continue to build from that standpoint. So anything that's showing up in your outer reality as resistance, you're just working through the releasing of the fears that you may have within you, or the doubts, especially doubts, or not looking at what you're seeing things from your own projections onto your twin, especially, okay? Because a lot of times there are people who project their feelings and fears onto their twin, and then it starts to happen. So release those thoughts and pay attention to, where did the thought come from? Why am I feeling this way? Is it true? Do I believe it to be true? What are the messages that the divine is showing to me, so I don't get attached to what I'm perceiving and what I see based on that person? So this is what I'm hearing. And the next thing I'm hearing is that this time is what they call the clarion call. It's like a clarion call. Some of you may be having dreams of communication between yourself and your divine partner, whatever name you want to call them. I'm not trying to dismiss it, but I try not to repeat the same name with the label, because it carries a certain energy. So you know specifically what I'm talking about, okay? And remember that this is a connection. This is a connection. It is not based on just a relationship itself, okay? This is the connection that you're having to the divine that is showing up through you, and also your sacred soul partner. And that is what I'm hearing. So I'm in gratitude, Mother, Father, God, for these messages. I'm in gratitude for all the archangels and all of the galactic beings that are coming from the outer planets, Sirius, Palladian, Arcturian, Avian. I'm in gratitude for the wisdom that flows through each and every one of us, and being able to apply this wisdom into our external lives. Gratitude for more heart awakenings. I send you so much peace and love. So I thank you so much for joining me. If you did not catch the first live, please go back to the beginning, because it's only going to be up for about 24 hours. And remember, I am offering the webinar tomorrow from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. If you are interested, please send me an email at the Garden of Eden 1111 at gmail.com, or you can click on the link. And also, if anyone would like to have a personal session with me, you can visit my website, www.thereturnofthegardenofeden.com, or you can send me an email again, or you can contact me on Facebook Messenger and send me a message. I am in such gratitude, more than you could ever dream of or imagine. And then again, we must come from the imagination in what I feel and see during this time. of what is supporting our divine unions, what is supporting our path and where we are to be. And know that you are loved. You have always been loved. It has always existed. And the truth is that it's for you to allow yourself to receive this love, knowing that you deserve it. And if it means that you speak your truth and come from your heart when it comes to love, to do that. And it doesn't have to be a specific way for it to show up as far as saying if it's right or wrong. It just is. It has always been. And I love you. Peace be with you, beautiful souls.